Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Raider Nation, Raider haters, friends, enemies alike, hello, how the heck are you? My name is Rodney. Thank you so much for coming back and watching another stream, whether that's live on Bleacher Report or after the fact on my YouTube channel, ALLaBorde Raiders. I said because I asked you how you were doing, and I was going to say I'm not great because I'm still yet to recover from my alma mater, Penn State, choking the season away yesterday. The quarterback that I hitched my wagon to, choking the season away. And that actually does impact the Raiders. And we're going to talk about all that right now and in the minutes and hours to come here. I'm just making sure we're live, and we're live. All right. Yeah, I'm not great. I'm wearing the Penn State blue. I'll be honest with you. There were clips of Drew Aller that were, surfaced about him talking about the final possession, about him playing, and I couldn't even click on the videos. I can't look at him. Look at this. My screensaver is Drew Aller. And every time I look at my phone, I'm like, I got to change this. I can't look at the kid. The kid, operative word. But yeah, look, as a Raider fan and as a Penn State fan, I'm not used to playing in games that matter on that scale. So the whole day I wanted to throw up. And then when the game started, I wanted to throw up. And as the game was going on, I wanted to throw up. And when the game ended, I was numb. I don't know how to react to losing big games like that because we're never in them. Raiders, Penn State. That does impact the Raiders with the quarterback situation moving forward. We're going to talk about so many things. I see people in the chat already. Let's make sure we get these comments rocking and rolling. We got polls about coaches, about potential quarterbacks. I have a take on Mark Davis, and I'm sure not a lot of people are going to like because everybody hates Mark Davis. We got a lot of things to discuss. Here's what I want to say. Start commenting away in the chat because we're going to be reading a lot of those right off the bat. So yesterday, we talked a lot about Tom Telesco, right? Tom Telesco was fired. We don't know who the new GM is, new coaches. There was interviews that were conducted today. I have the list of candidates that I'm assuming were interviewed today because this is Deshaun Reed, tweeted out a couple days ago all the candidates that we have lined up for potential interviews. And Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, and Spagnuolo, they were all scheduled to interview on Friday. I don't know if that actually happened. I know for sure Ben Johnson did. I don't know if Aaron Glenn and Steve Spagnuolo did their virtuals as well. If somebody knows that, make sure you let me know in the comments. And then Pete Carroll is sometime next week. Robert Saleh sometime next week. And Todd Monken is TBD. Those are the candidates so far that we are potentially looking at. And I want to talk about specifically one in particular. But before we do that, the Raiders today, I don't know if they did it today or the news just broke today, and this guy has been in the facility for a little bit here. They made a hire. Now, I wanted to share this tweet, but the interface here is giving me a little trouble. And the last time I shared something, the stream cut out, so I'm afraid to do that. I'm a little bit gun shy, but I'm going to read a tweet here. This was today, and I've seen other Raider people talking about this. And this goes into my overarching thoughts on Mark Davis and Tom Brady together in the belief in them. And it's this guy, Jed Hughes. Now, if you're in the Raiders zeitgeist, like a lot of us are, we've learned of Jed Hughes' existence today. This is a tweet from Deshaun Reed. The Raiders have hired Jed Hughes of search firm Korn Ferry to help compile GM and head coach candidates. Hughes helped the placements of the following head coaches. So this guy is like a guru, an expert on resurrecting franchises by finding and locating their next GMs and head coaches. And here are the most recent successes that this guy has had with his firm. This guy must make a lot of money. How do you know you can do this? Whatever. Here's a list of candidates, or here's a list of people that he helped get jobs in positions. Bruce Arians with the Bucks, pretty good. Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Andy Reid with the Chiefs, and Pete Carroll with the Seahawks. So this guy, Jed Hughes, specializes in matching needy franchises with the next great head coach and general manager. He's also done this in baseball too, with the Mets organization. I didn't know who this guy was. Now, there's not a lot I can say about him. The track record speaks for himself. He's apparently in these interviews and in the interview process with Mark Davis and Tom Brady. We talked a lot yesterday about how Tom Brady is basically the president of football operations. And if I had to guess, I would assume in 2025, moving forward, he's not going to call any more games for Fox. I think he's going to be spread too thin. There's no insider information there. I'm just making a prediction. But Jed Hughes, they hired this guy. So this is why I want to talk about Mark Davis for a second here before we get into the coaching options and potential quarterbacks, because the quarterback situation is probably going to be a problem for us next year. And get your comments in. I see a comment already about Jeff Hughes. Jeff Hughes? Jed Hughes. Jed Hughes. Mark Davis has made a lot of mistakes. More mistakes than right calls, right? I said this. He went Dennis Allen, Jack Del Rio, John Gruden, Josh McDaniels. He's tried everything, and nothing seems to be working. So he's like, Jed Hughes, I'm going to hire you now. Please come in here and fix this thing with Tom Brady, who is, one of the. Is that confirmed? Tom announced he won't be doing Fox next year. I don't know if that's true. I read an article that said there was a prediction being made that he won't come back, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. I know the article that you're referencing. I don't think that's exactly what it said. I lost my train of thought. Mark Davis. Mark Davis has now hired this guy and Tom Brady. Mark Davis is paying multiple GMs and multiple coaches who are not on this team. Why am I saying all this? The reason I'm saying all this is because I don't think Mark Davis gets enough credit from the fans for caring as much as he does. He was born into this. He did not purchase the Raiders. His father did. Now, some kids might just want to carry on the legacy but not be involved. And if they win, they win. If they lose, they lose. We're going to make a lot of money, and the name of Al Davis will live on through NFL films. And he's made a lot of bad decisions. But I do think there is a willingness for Mark Davis to admit the mistakes that he's made time and time again. And that doesn't absolve you from your past mistakes, but it should convey a sense of caring to the fans, because there are other owners who do not give a rip, Chicago Bears, if their team is good or bad. It's about the bottom line. There are owners like the Cleveland Browns organization have that will fully guarantee a $200+ million contract to Deshaun Watson, who's not a good player and presumably not a good person. Mark Davis, again, lots of bad decisions, is trying everything to turn this ship around as quickly as possible. And he's also not an owner that likes to meddle. And maybe that's part of why we keep losing so much, because owners will be like, hey, what's going on? I want to be involved in this. I want to pick the players, blah, blah, blah. He's willing to give the keys to the castle to now Jed Hughes and Tom Brady. And maybe it blows up in his face, but these guys have great track records. So as I go to read the comments here, I just wanted to do a little tight 10 on Mark Davis and say, like, I'm happy that he's our only owner only because he cares so much. Now, Tom Brady, we don't know if he's going to make the right decisions. We know he's going to try his best, and he's had success not only in Foxborough, but in Tampa Bay. And that's why I don't like saying that this is another example of us trying to do the Patriots way. Tom Brady has had success not only with the Patriots, but in Michigan and in Tampa. He's going to compile all these other things to create the Tom Brady way, which I saw Rich Eisen. I don't know if he made that up, if he coined it, but I saw Rich Eisen saying this is the Tom Brady way. I do have faith in them, but I want to hear from the people in the comments as I pin this first poll. Do you believe, I almost said in Tebow Magic, do you believe in Tom Brady and Mark Davis? I'm interested to see what the poll results are here. And also, comment away if you believe in one of them and not the other, assuming you believe in Tom Brady and not Mark Davis. Triple says, I love the Jed Hughes hire. It makes us seem so much more professional, which is a new feeling for an offensive coach hire. Don't disagree with that. He also comes up to say, I've been saying we have some of the most appealing ownership for coaches since Mark lets the coaches have control and doesn't. But unless the coaches fail completely, that's as good as it can be, no doubt about it. Deshaun Watson was great in Houston. There's no denying that. But there's no denying now that he's maybe the worst quarterback in the National Football League. What's going on, Z Jones 42? I always want to call you Zay Jones. I miss Zay Jones. But yeah, look. I am leaning on the side of I do believe Brady and Davis. I do believe in them. But I do need to see more. I need to see how they conduct this coaching process. Now, I love that we had, the first or second stab at Ben Johnson. It's a virtual interview. Ben Johnson cannot interview in person. None of these coordinators for playoff teams can interview in person until after the divisional round. And then they can't be technically hired until that team is eliminated or wins the Super Bowl. I saw some people saying that if the Lions don't win the Super Bowl, maybe he'll come back for some unfinished business. Ben Johnson, that is. I don't think that's the case. I think no matter what, he's out. Again, I'm not letting myself believe that we're going to get Ben Johnson because I don't want to be disappointed. Penn State has drained every ounce of optimism out of me this football season, if the Raiders already didn't do that enough. But yeah, look, Tom Brady and Mark Davis, now with Jed Hughes. And again, just to recap, Jed Hughes, if you join a little late, this is the guy they just hired to be a part of the search committee. He's from the search firm Korn Ferry. That company helps compile GM and head coach candidates. Hughes helped the placement of the following head coaches: Pete Carroll to the Seahawks, Andy Reid to the Chiefs, Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, Bruce Arians with the Bucks. That's a tweet from Tashawn Reed. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. No. Did the stream cut out? Hello? Did it come out for just you or everybody else? I think I'm still going. I'm gonna continue to go. I'm checking it though, just to make sure we're okay. No, we're good. I think it just cut out for you. No, we're good. Okay. Make sure someone else comment that it didn't come out because it didn't come out for me. Okay. Next thing to discuss here. All right, you're still watching. Pete Carroll is on that list. Whew, you scared me, Z Jones. Pete Carroll was on that list that Jed Hughes, by the way, Korn Ferry, I don't think it has anything to do with golf. I think that's just the name of the company that he works for. He founded. I don't know, whatever. Pete Carroll was a guy that Jed Hughes helped find his way from college to the Seattle Seahawks, right? Pete Carroll and Vinny Bonsignore tweeted, Raiders Insider. Actually, I should probably try to find that. But he tweeted something along the lines of, Ben Johnson and Pete Carroll are the number 1 and number 2 options for the Las Vegas Raiders internally in the building. Not what's most likely, but the 2 guys that they want are Ben Johnson, Pete Carroll. And there's growing momentum in the building that they think, Tom Brady, Mark Davis, Jed Hughes, that we can get one of these 2 guys. And this is the reason why I titled this podcast, The Raiders Have 2 Paths to Their Next Head Coach. Because yesterday we talked about Ben Johnson, the guru, then the wonderkin, the meteoric rise, fighting off a burp so nobody can hear it. The next Shanahan, the next McVay. He's probably the most hyped head coaching candidate that doesn't have head coaching experience since Sean McVay. We talked about him yesterday. Go check that out. The replay is on my YouTube channel, ALLaBorde Raiders. Go subscribe if you have not done that yet. We did not discuss Pete Carroll in great length. The reason why I would be all in on Pete Carroll if we don't get Ben Johnson, Pete Carroll has become my number 2 option. I think when I made this video on my YouTube channel listing out the potential options before AP was fired, Pete Carroll was 5 or 4 on that list. He's now shot up to 2 because I don't think Mike Vrabel is of interest to us anymore. Aaron Glenn showed you that by turning down his interview, Mike Vrabel's going to the Patriots, which means Ben Johnson's probably not going there. Another one bites the dust in the Ben Johnson camp. Pete Carroll seems to be down to the Raiders or the Bears. Now, Pete Carroll is an easygoing guy, so he might be okay working under Ryan Poles. Pete Carroll is also a 2-time Super Bowl coach in terms of coaching the game. He won one, lost one. So he might want to have a little more control and might want to have a say in who is the GM. Now, I saw some people say, I don't know if I'm okay with Ben Johnson handpicking the GM. I understand that because he's new to the game. Pete Carroll picking who he wants as GM is okay with me. Pete Carroll, when coaching the Raiders, turns the AFC West into the best division, the greatest division of all time in terms of coaching resumes. He would fit right in. Some people might consider him maybe better than Sean Payton. Definitely better than Harbaugh, only because he's won a Super Bowl. Harbaugh's never done that. On paper, splitting hairs there. You might want to take Harbaugh instead of Pete Carroll. And right under Andy Reid. All of a sudden, there would be no disadvantages from a coaching standpoint. Now, he's 74 years old. People have said he's the youngest 74 that they've ever seen. All Pete Carroll does is win. He's like Mike Tomlin, but he could win playoff games. And he would change the vibe completely. There would be a level of professionalism that we haven't had since, I don't know, Jack Del Rio, I guess? Now, I want you guys to discuss Pete in the comments as I send this poll out. If we don't get Ben Johnson, what would your thoughts, what would your vibe be on hiring Pete Carroll? Is Pete Carroll your number 2 option? And if Pete Carroll is not your number 2 option, I would like to see in the comments who your number 2 option would be. Now, if you're saying no thank you to this, I would like to see the reasons why. Now, if it's just the age, I'm going to push back on that a little. Just because I do think Pete Carroll is not an older 74. Some people present younger, some people present older. I do think he still has a chance to get back to the mountaintop, and I do think he's going to have a lot of motivation to prove to the people in Seattle specifically, you shouldn't have fired me. Although maybe that was a joint decision, a divorce, if you will. This has to be the most parity I've ever seen in a poll. 22% say great hire, 33% say I could be convinced, 11% say indifferent, 33% say no thank you. Okay, so the people who said no thank you, I'd love to hear who your number 2 would be and why you don't want him. Now, Z Jones 42 says, oh no, I'm sorry. I read the wrong one. Hasn't Jed only placed older coaches with teams? I don't know if he's ever placed a young coordinator, head coach with a team. I'm sure that he's been involved in that. Now, what he does is he compiles a list of candidates for people. I don't think he says like, hey, this is the guy you're hiring. I think he says this is the guy I would hire. I'm sure he's compiled a bunch of different candidates, and then the Chiefs decided we're going to go with Reid of all the people that he brought in. I'm sure he's brought in younger people too, but of those people I listed, it seems to have been an older crop of people. You know what? We know what's funny about that? Z Jones 42, when you quote me saying people say Pete is the youngest 74 they've seen telling media pushing Biden. I was going to say, like this last presidential race, both candidates are around the same age. One presents a little older, one presents a little younger. And Pete, in this case, presents a little younger. That's very funny. I don't want to be a coach. I don't want a coach that will only be around for 3 years. Okay. I totally understand that. I do think the difference is, let's say he's here for 5 years. He changes the culture. We're constantly competitive. Within those 5 years, Pete Carroll, Tom Brady, and whoever the GM is are able to locate the quarterback. And then you can hire from in-house with Tom Brady and Pete Carroll elevating a coordinator or finding that next great coordinator. And Pete Carroll has already laid the foundation and found your franchise quarterback. If I said Pete Carroll's only going to be here for 4 years or 5 years, but we're going to locate our franchise quarterback and we're going to be constantly in the hunt for a wild card or a division win, I would sign on the dotted line as fast as humanly possible. And I do think if you go with Pete Carroll, that's what you're doing. It's not a futures hire. It's not a 10-year contract, but you're laying the foundation moving forward that from right now, the Raiders organization is going to change for the better. If Pete Carroll retires and we're a great organization, the next Ben Johnson would love to come here. Absolutely. And Brady will still be in the mix to have him come in. We won't need Brady to be the only reason why Ben Johnson would take the interview. Pete Carroll will have already laid the foundation for all that. Mr. Beaster. Oh. I got pranked. I got pranked by one of those names. You got me. You got me. Well done, Mr. B. Pete Carroll is a very good coach. He would be the best coach we've had in multiple decades. He'd be the best coach we have since Tom Flores. Yes. Red Sparrow, Pete has proven, but we need his replacement on the staff with him. I do think he could locate that for us. We need to plan to get a young QB somehow, some way, a strong offensive coach and a proven defensive coordinator. Donut says Ben Johnson is number one choice. His number two choice is the Lions DC. Third is Liam Cohen. I don't hate Liam Cohen. Hey, Enrique, first I've lied. Let's be as elite in the AFC West with this offseason. I'm ready to go, man. And then Z Jones says, I like Monken if we don't land Ben Johnson. So somebody said, who was it? Who was it? I just said, okay, Red Sparrow said, I'm going to end this poll here. Okay. Red Sparrow says, we need to plan to get a young QB somehow, some way, a strong offensive coach and a proven defensive coordinator. So if you would allow me for just 1 second to be a really bitter, really upset Penn State fan, and the weave will come back to the Las Vegas Raiders. I've been pounding the drum and slamming the table for Drew Aller to be our selection. I said I would have taken him number 1 overall. I'm willing to admit to you when I'm wrong. And that's not that day. Today's not the day where I'm going to say that I still wouldn't do that. However, I could fully acknowledge that not only did he look bad against, I can't even remember what happened yesterday, Notre Dame. That was the worst game of his career by a country mile. And in my Discord, everyone was roasting and toasting me because this is your king, this is your boy. I want to make something abundantly clear with everyone. This has been my hard stance on Drew Aller. This has been my hard stance on everyone that's not Shedeur Sanders. And you could even convince me if we draft Shedeur Sanders to do this. I do not want to start whoever we draft for a full season. I want a proven veteran in there that isn't Gardner Minshew. So this kid, whoever it is, can bake under the sun. And then when he's ready, then it's time to go. And that's not true. He played incredible against Oregon. So we're going to move on from that. Drew Aller, just like Cam Ward, has the tools to be the next great quarterback. He might have to stay in college another year to refine that. And he choked in this game, no doubt about it. And he was terrible. But the reason why I want him is because I want him to sit behind somebody. Now, the problem for the Raiders after that game yesterday is that I do not see a world in which he can be convinced to declare for the NFL draft this season, especially after that performance we had. And even if he declared and we don't take him, there still would be a higher chance of us being able to land a quarterback at 6 with another quarterback declaring in the mix. And now that he had such a bad game, and I'm assuming he doesn't declare, with Carson Beck in the transfer portal, maybe going to Miami, I don't know. And now with Deshaun Watson tearing his Achilles after having reconstructive surgery to repair his Achilles, there's no world in which one of these quarterbacks falls to 6. And I don't think there's a universe where any of these teams are going to let us trade up unless they really don't like Shedeur and Cam Ward. That is true. Jalen Milroe did do that, but maybe he thinks like I'm not getting any better than this. My question to you is this: after Drew Aller's bad performance, where he's not going to come out probably, and Deshaun Watson ripping his Achilles, who's going to be the quarterback in 2025? And this is, by the way, don't vote yet. This is not who do you want. It's what do you think will happen? Okay? Because I don't want Kirk Cousins. It's not up to me or you. If Ben Johnson's coming here, he's probably not rolling with Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. I thought about putting Aiden as the fourth option, but to me, that just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Now, if you think it's going to be Aiden O'Connell, comment away. I think Aiden O'Connell would probably be a better option than Kirk Cousins at this point. But again, I don't want you guys to make the vote on the poll here in terms of who you want it to be. And you can tell me who you want it to be in the comments, but this is about a prediction. Because I have no idea how we're going to be able to trade up for one of these guys. There's 3 needy quarterback teams ahead of us in the Titans. Now Cleveland is definitely taking a quarterback, I would imagine. And the New York Football Giants. So as excited as I'll be for a Ben Johnson or a Pete Carroll, there's a world in which we got to roll with Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers. Now, if I was ranking these options in terms of what I would want to do, I think my number one option would be to trade up. I just don't think it's feasible. My second option would either be Aaron Rodgers or Aiden O'Connell. Rodgers, if it's not a crazy contract for 1 year, I would try to do it. Tannehill is out there. I don't know why he didn't sign with somebody this year. Maybe he had no suitors. In no word can we roll in the 25 of the AOC. What about Kyle McCord? I mean, I just don't think Kyle McCord will be ready. But I just want to throw something out here before I hop off. And I do think there's a world in which this could happen. I think, and by the way, the correct answer to this question of who should we want it to be is Sam Darnold, right? I didn't put him on this list because I don't see him being available. Maybe J.J. McCarthy. Triple says Zach Wilson over all of them. I actually agree with that. I would give Zach Wilson a chance. Geno Smith and Sam Darnold have flourished post-Jets. I said this on my last live. Sam Darnold learned under Kyle Shanahan. Zach Wilson learned under Sean Payton. There's a chance in which Zach Wilson could be resurrected with a Ben Johnson. I don't know. I've heard talk of Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton. For Super Wildcard Weekend, and by the way, if anybody's watching this from California, thoughts and prayers with you guys. That's terrible. I know there's like Red Crosses and GoFundMe's and everything out there. If you guys can give anything to those people, they've lost a lot. And the reason I'm talking about this is because the Rams and Vikings game obviously got moved to Arizona. We need to be rooting for the Rams to get blown out. Because I don't think either way Sam Darnold is hitting free agency. The Rams getting blown out, even if Stafford plays well, signals to the Rams, to Les Snead and to Sean McVay, we might have to start looking at Matthew Stafford's replacement. We might have to sneaky rebuild this thing up from the ground. And there could be a world in which Matthew Stafford, who, full transparency, is one of my favorite quarterbacks to ever play the game, is available via trade. Now, I would not trade my first-round pick for Matthew Stafford, but we have a high 2, and we have 2 3s. And we've got picks next year. We maybe have a player to throw in there. And I already see Donut saying Stafford is washed. I'm pulling up his stats right now. Matthew Stafford stats. Matthew Stafford this season has thrown for 3,600 yards, 20 touchdowns, 8 picks, a rating of 93. That's a rating that's higher than the last 2 seasons. Obviously, in 2021, he was amazing. They won the Super Bowl. The reason I'm pitching Matthew Stafford for 2 3s or a 2 and a 3 is because he would be the best option of all the free agents out there. He'd be better than Aaron Rodgers. He'd be better than Kirk Cousins. And it would be for 1 year. 2 3s in a Gatorade bucket. I'm in. It would be for 1 year. You could draft a Jalen Milroe or a Jackson Dart. Even if you draft Shedeur Sanders. Matthew Stafford for 1 season with Ben Johnson, handing the ball off to Ashton Genty, throwing the ball to Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, or Stafford with Pete Carroll, if he thinks he's got one more season in him, you've got to try to do something. The reason I'm pitching this Stafford thing is because I think we got to look outside the box here. Kirk Cousins, I do think, is actually washed. Aaron Rodgers is on the brink of being washed. I don't think Stafford is washed. I think he's the best option out there. Now, the only other thing that comes to mind is if you go Todd Monken, Justin Fields. But other than that, I just struggle to see the world in which we have a rookie quarterback next year. I just don't know how we can get up. So we'll see. We'll see. If you've been watching on the live, thank you so much. Make sure we go to the YouTube channel. If you didn't know I had one, ALLaBorde Raiders on YouTube. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, hit that like button, comment away, subscribe. It's free. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you this time next week, Thursday, Friday, Raiders Daily. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.